Ready.
Welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. Today's guest is Jared Boshoff. Jared is an online fitness coach who specializes in all things mobility and functional and performance-based fitness. So Jared, or Coach G as we'll call you, welcome to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. Thanks for being here, Jared.
Oh, thank you very much, Adrian. Nice to see you again after the IFS. So yeah, can't wait to get stuck in.
Yeah, so Jared and I, we recently met at IFS in Lisbon, the International Fitness Summit, an event organized by James Smith. So it's great to
Yeah.
connect with Jared. And Jared, before I get you to actually share your backstory, share something about yourself that most people do not know.
Oh, you throw me in the deep end. You didn't tell me about this. No. So basically, so I live in the UK, but I'm originally obviously from South Africa. So yeah, English is my second language. And so I came over originally to play rugby back in the days. I'm not going to go into the data. So my background is a rugby background. Not a lot of people know about that, and I don't really talk about that a lot. But so sports performance and rugby, team sport, is kind of like what I've been doing since I was 5, and it's like a DNA of every South African is like our DNA. Like football's in England, as rugby is in South Africa. So that's my background. Then I did my sports science degree back in South Africa. And then I wanted to always go play rugby abroad. Lost my dad when I was quite young, so I moved abroad.
Okay.
I got the opportunity to go to Ireland, obviously. So I think that's why we've got the connection. So landed in Ireland as a South African lad. I can't speak great English and still can't, still trying. And then met obviously the Irish accent. So played rugby in Ireland, then traveled the world a bit, New Zealand, played in Italy, and always wanted to come to the UK for opportunities, etc. So it's always been my thing, but I knew after sport or after rugby, there's going to be an end to, the career is going to end eventually.
Of course, yeah.
And so gradually, as I came to the end of my career, I've always had my sports science degree and my personal training qualification, but I've always been into fitness, whether it was part of the team or personal training on the side, a one-to-one. And then I made the jump, and I just went self-employed 4 or 5 years before the end of my career. So I kind of went semi-professional, so it allows me to work and play, because rugby doesn't pay that much that you can just retire like footballer. So, and your body is battered as well. So I kind of made that jump. But rugby has taught me a lot about life, about skill, about working with people, culture, etc. So in a nutshell, it's kind of part of my life. And then started coaching people, fell in love with personal training, with coaching people online, and now we're here today. So yeah, taking that next step.
Wow. Yeah, and just share a bit more about the rugby, Jared. Obviously, like that actually is a nice segue for you into your current career. Just share, so like what kind of level would you have been playing at up through the years when you're even at your peak fitness, we would say?
Cool. So I was playing back in South Africa. I 2000 and just after uni, I had the opportunity to get a contract. I ruptured my ACL in my right knee. So I was only 22, 23, and it was one of those things where they say, "Oh, you'll never make it now." And in the 15 players in that team, I think 13 people got a professional contract, and me and another guy being injured didn't get it. So,
wow.
So then it knocks your confidence, because you're out with an ACL and a medial, so it's got 9 months. I was playing playing full contact against after 6.5 months, where they said it's going to be 9. So I just had that mindset and determination. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I can do this. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm only 86 kilos. So I had to always keep my body in much better shape than your bigger. You know the size of rugby players now. They're massive. So my thing was my skill, was my mobility, was my nimbleness, not my my brute force, basically. But then psychologically, I couldn't get over the injury, and I was a bit scared. I was a bit nervous back home, and I thought, I need a clean cut. I finished uni. Let's go abroad. And I got the opportunity to go to Ireland. I only played like All Ireland 1, which is like your second division, just to get my head back in the game. We traveled all over Ireland. I loved it, and I always wanted to play higher, but I just couldn't make that step in Ireland. So then I went to New Zealand, played at a fairly high level, just below your MPC in New Zealand. Which was quite cool. But obviously the money is not great in New Zealand, so it's more of a passion and stuff. Then came to the UK, and then obviously made a better breakthrough. And then my best years, I'd say, was 2013-14, when I played full time in Italy for 2 years. So that was when I was full time, training 5 times a week. So I've only really had full time
Wow.
rugby for about 3 years, and the others was more semi-professional. So
And how would you compare the commitment level to full-time versus semi-pro, Ger?
the standard in Italy is not as high. So it's still full time. So it's Monday, Tuesday we train twice a day. Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday, and then Wednesday is the day off. Then Thursday, Friday, so twice a day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we play on Sundays, which was odd to me because you can't go out on a Saturday and you've got a long week, and then your body's battered on a Sunday. And Italy is
Go
quite a
back
big,
at it Monday. Yeah,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And Italy is quite a big country. So I was in Milan in the top, in the north of Italy. So we could be flying down south back. So there's a lot of traveling. So it's demanding on the body. And then you do that over and over again. So in terms of training wise, I do love it. I didn't have to work. So that was my job. So you enjoy it more. And compared to the UK, which you have to have a job and train. So I'd say semi-pro, in terms of semi-pro, is harder because you need to juggle work and job. Full time is easier because you can dedicate kind of your time
Sure.
and your energy towards that thing. So I enjoy that more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
and Jared, that was a bit of a risk though, because you were obviously you were going to Italy, and I'm sure you didn't speak much or
at all.
any Italian prior to going. So that was surely a barrier for you, Jared, even playing professional rugby over there.
It was tough. Yeah. So we kind of knew we wanted to make this jump, and I was with my wife now, so partner at the time. So we're like, let's do it. And she got a job at international school, and I said, listen, we can't go over there, not can't, and we can't speak any language. So we had literally 6 weeks, I think 6 weeks of 2 hours a week, just the basic Italian. And then it's like anything, you think you know French or German, you go over there and you speak to Italian. And I was the fly half, so I was like the quarterback in football. You call the shots, you call the moves, you call the plays, and I couldn't say anything. I was just see or not, see or not. I couldn't speak. But luckily, I met on our 15 Fabrizio, which is I'm still friends with now. He is the only guy who could speak really good English, and we're still friends today.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
and he guided me through. But you know what? It's another skill, and then I picked it up so quickly to the point where I could speak and understand fluently. So after 2 years, which is incredible. So I've lost it a
Wow.
bit now because I don't practice it as much, but I can still understand it, and it's another kind of blessing and kind of another bow to my string, isn't it? So
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. And just to segue off that then, Jared, so you mentioned that obviously being 86 kilos, even compared to rugby players nowadays, your biggest talent was more so your mobility, your movement, your skill. And then this obviously segued nicely for you to actually run your business, which you specialize in four pillars here. You call them the Bosch method, and it incorporates mobility. We've got a bit of strength work, functional strength, aerobic work, on top of like just sustainable nutrition practices. So, Jared, let's just actually break down the Bosch method one by one and step by step,
yeah.
starting out with mobility.
So mobility, as I mentioned before, for me is a pillar because going back to my rugby career, I've been injured a hell of a lot. So ACL, three ankle operations, a dislocated shoulder. So I've been in physio rooms probably more than anyone else. I've spent a lot of time with physio. So one thing I'm really passionate about is, and where I think I've got the edge on a lot of this is not an egotistic way, and a lot of other
Yeah.
coaches is I've spent time in the physio room. So when I do meet a client with an injury or with a shoulder, I've probably been there. Okay, so in terms of my science and that's helped me a lot. So that's why mobility back in the days has made me realize it's fundamentally important because the quality of movement we find now in the everyday, just the everyday population is not great because of our lifestyle. So I base my pillars basically on firstly mobility. So can a client or an individual, how well can they move through space? So from one point to another, um, freely, efficiently, and without any aid or without any assistance. So this could be anything. This could be whilst they're training or whilst they are just performing a hip rotation, sitting on the floor.
Sure.
Because mobility isn't something. There's a lot of kind of definitions being thrown out there is when you just swing your leg or how big can your range be, but it's actually like if we refer to a squat is how low can you squat,
Yeah.
how can you move your hips, Have you got full overhead extension in your shoulder? So for me, mobility is like the first pillar, because I believe, and I know you deal with a lot of aesthetics and transformations as well, and it ties in with that as well. I believe if people can't move well enough, it's going to hinder their lifestyle. It's going to hinder their performance. It's going to hinder their football. It's going to hinder their playing with their kids. Mobility for me is fundamental, and I'd say it's more important than strength. Yes, it's all encompasses and is important as a whole. But if we don't have that mobility element, then we're not going to have a great strength base or a platform to work from. So for me, mobility, yeah, and then obviously moving on to the next one is, we're going to talk about the next one now, or just
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love the way you mentioned there about mobility. I guess like what's the point of looking good if you can't move good, Jaren? And one ties into the other because it's not like you either have mobility or strength, either or. If you can incorporate both, I mean, aren't you getting the best of both worlds? Just, Jer, you mentioned there like two injuries you had, your ankle and your shoulder. And I just know over the years, like a lot of people too, probably the three most common injuries or areas that we need to focus on mobility would be like for the shoulder, for your ankles, for your hips, Jer, and particularly like low back pain is obviously a common issue there as well, Jer. What would you say, like, let's just say to a desk worker who works 50 hours a week sitting down at a desk, what would you say would be like just some good mobility exercise that he or she could use so that they can free up, their hips, their shoulders, and so on?
So yeah, that's a really good question, and I get this a lot on my Instagram as well. Like, I've got tight back, and majority of people now, even now, me and you talking here, we're sitting down. Okay, so although we coaches, we're on our feet a lot more, and that's a benefit we've got. So unfortunately, and I encourage my clients as well, if they've got desk jobs, first thing I'd say is speak to your boss and try and stand. Okay, yes, it costs more money, but there's a lot of money going into well-being people in workplace now. So why not ask him, can I stand up? Okay, yes, you don't have to stand all day. You can stand for an hour, sit for an hour. So that's the first thing I do, because you don't have to sit down. Okay, we've been told to sit down. We don't have to sit down. So that will make a massive difference. So because the problem is we try and always fix stuff, but we don't prevent stuff. Okay, so if we yeah, so if we can prevent getting tight hips or sore back from bad posture, and driving is another thing, and I think you probably mean that as well, like we drive a lot. So number one thing is I'll stand up. Second thing is make mobility part of your life. Now, people's going to go, oh, I need a coach to teach me these things. There's really simple, basic things we can do on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm not saying getting up in the morning an hour earlier and do like stretching, which I do because it's part of my lifestyle, but before work, lunchtime, or after work. And if you can't do that, incorporate it into your workout. And this ties into the Bosch method as well. So we do in our workouts, say 4 to 7 minutes of mobility activation and like stretching prior to the workout. So if a client cannot spend, or your everyday general population people, if they can't spend time an additional 5, 10, 15 minutes away from the gym, then that's cool because they've got kids and family. So tie it into your workout then.
I
So
love it. I love it.
tie it in. So you probably see this in the gym, and everyone listening as well. And if you are one of those listening and you walk into the gym next time, think about the intent. Think about when you walk into that gym, an arm swing or a shoulder swing, and then flexing your pec is not a warm up. Okay, so it's not specific, is it? So if you're gonna
We
do,
all know the typical bench press warm up. You
there you
you
go,
do those arm swings, you warm up in the bar, you throw two 20-kilo plates
there you
either
go,
side, and off you go.
exactly. So
I've made the mistake before, Jerry. Look, I've fell victim to it before, so I understand, man.
exactly, and I see it every day. I see it every day in the gym, and my clients, they're so tuned in. So they come into the gym, they've got their work, and my workout is only 45 minutes long. Part of the Bosch method, that's what we do, because the clients, people I coach, they don't have a lot of time during the day because they're busy. They've got meetings, they've got kids, they've got school drop off, and they're very limited to time. So I've created this Bosch method, 45 to 55 minutes. That's including the mobility, activation, and then going into, which we'll speak to later, about your strength, etc. So back to the point, if we can incorporate that into your workout, make it specific. Now, yeah, it's easier said than done, and this is why people need a bit of guidance on programming, not on programming, on workouts. Now, I'm not saying you need to regimentedly follow a program, but if you know, to answer your question, if you know the basic fundamental stretches or mobility drills, That's cool. And that could be as simple as lying on your back, swinging your leg. Okay, so if we do legs today, you got the old school, grab the ankle, pull the ankle to the bum, quad stretch. It's more of a stretch. We want to increase range. Okay, range of motion in the joint. So one of my training manifestos points in the Bosch method is we train movements, not muscles. And if we think about that, if we train a movement is a squat. Okay. But if we squat, we are working the quads and the hamstrings and the glutes and the calves. So we are working muscles, but we're focusing on the movement. So if we can, so a bench press, we're focusing on a push or a pull. Yes, there's muscles within that. You can't not train the muscles. You still train the muscles, but simple leg swings, okay. And I've got nothing wrong with people that go upper body, lower body. That's not what I do. That's not what I coach. I'm more of a functional fitness guy. So compound overall kind of body movements. And I know you probably prefer more of a set split, which is cool. There is a time and place for that. But I think if you do an upper body, focus on upper body mobility. So simple one. Let's run through a few. So upper body, you can have a dowel or a stick or a resistance band, and just do some rollovers in the shoulders. Okay, so back to forward, loosens up the chest and the shoulders. Okay, we can be on the floor and doing some arm raises with our head and chest on the floor. Do some straight arm raises above your head and see if you can do that. So we're challenging the range, because what we do, we sit down, shoulders are slouched forward all day, and then we go to the gym. We don't warm up and we get straight into a bench press, and we're making our chest muscles shorter and shorter, and our posture's becoming worse and worse.
Gotcha. No, actually, very, very similar myself. What I like, even if what I like to do is, I do like to, like, depending on the client, will say I might do like upper, lower, full body, a push, pull, leg, full body. But within that, it's still those fundamental movement patterns that we focus on: the squat, we focus on the deadlift, we focus on a press moving, you focus on a lunge, core, etc., etc. And I'm a big believer too in just like, it doesn't need to take all day. Like, as you said, 5 to 7 minutes, you can absolutely get a lot done. Or even, let's say, sometimes what I do myself is I'm doing like an upper session. During my rest period, my 90-second rest period, I might do a hip mobility drill. That's not going to impact me when I go back on the bench press, but it's going to improve my range of motion, my movement, and it's not adding up any more time. So speaking of kind of, the first pillar is obviously mobility. Ger, what exactly is functional strength? What would you define that as?
It's also a quote that's been thrown around a lot, and a lot of people use it in a different way. For me, functional fitness or functional strength is we're practicing or doing something that we're going to use on a day-to-day basis, or it's gonna have an impact on our daily lives or daily activities. So there is a time and a place for a bench press. There is a time and a place for a bicep curl. Everything is functional, but we want to improve our functionality. So that's going to impact our daily life, our performance, that sort of thing. So back to the point, if we focus on movements, not muscle, so if we move well on a deadlift, if we move well in a squat, on an overhead press, and we can do all of those things, then aesthetically we're going to look better, we're going to feel better, mobility is going to be better. So for me, functional fitness is how well you can perform as many modalities, okay, well, because everyone wants to do everything really well, but what we do find is people specializes in one thing or the other, and that's cool. I'm not talking about sports people, and we're talking about everyday people. So when it comes to an everyday person, we want to get Sally or Peter to be functionally good, so they can play with their kids, they can mow the lawn, they can clean the garage, they can lift the box over their head and put it in the attic, and don't find that a hindrance or they unable to do it. So that's the simple term for me, not going into science, obviously. So.
And what are some ways then, Jared, that you like to train, we'll say, functional fitness then?
So functional fitness for me, so like you've highlighted earlier as well, is doing the compound left. So I use the 7 movement patterns, which we can quickly run through. So your hinge, your lunge, your squat, your push pull, which could be overhead push or horizontal push, and then your pull could be overhead and horizontal. So if we can tick all those boxes, incorporating mobility to start with. So being a bit more mobile, 5 to 7 minutes spend time on that. And then let's look at a workout here. So we've got another 30 to 35 minutes of functional movement. So functional movements is those compound lifts. And then how I program my stuff, we get the functional stuff out the way, the compound lift, sorry, out the way. So your deadlifts, your squats, your big kind of bang for your buck movements, okay? Because again, people don't have time. So if you can lunge or squat, the benefit of that,
you're ticking so many boxes there. Yes.
yeah, ticking all the boxes. And then you can do accessories at the end, which you probably do as well. You can do your bicep curls, your tricep curls. I'm not saying they're not functional, but they don't really serve us really well, because when are you gonna use a bicep curl, or when are you gonna lie on your back and just push someone off? It's not very functional. Okay, so we can do a clean and press, we can do a box jump. It's more functional, and it's going to be the things we can incorporate in our daily lives. That's how I see it. So
gotcha. Yeah. I think specificity is important too when it comes to function, because obviously you need to get some background info as to what the client, like I'll use myself as my own best example. Last January, I wasn't able to run at all. I had a hamstring injury, and so obviously that was the goal of mine, to get back running, but I wasn't able to do that. So my way of actually rehabbing that and getting into it again was to do a lot of sled work, because the sled, it mimics what I wanted to do, where you push a sled, you have that, the knee drive, the ankle drive, the hip drive. It's the same or similar mechanics to actually sprinting.
exactly.
And then 2 weeks ago, just gone by there, I ran a half marathon. So like, it's kind of specificity too as to what the overall goal is, what you actually need to get better at, and just whatever that thing is you want to do, train that thing. And there's like a continuum that, okay, if you want to get jacked and look good, sure, maybe bicep curls might play some kind of a role. But if you want to play your sport and you want to run a bit faster, it's like there is good, better, and best in terms of exercise selection. And as you said, the closer you can get to whatever you want to do outside of the gym, probably the more optimal it will be.
And the thing on that is a lot of people don't know exactly what they need to do. And a lot of people, to be fair, everyone's goal is fairly similar. Okay, if you think about it, I'm not talking about people competing and stuff, but your general day, Gen Pop as we call them, their goal is to look better, feel good, okay, get fitter, get a bit leaner. So we're not talking about nutrition here, because that's massively key. But ultimately, if you deadlift well, you get stronger, you get fitter, and your aerobic capacity improves, aesthetics will be a byproduct, and you will get better. But a lot of people don't know, and then you say, oh, let's do a deadlift, and they go, oh, it's a very specific for that sort of, I'm not talking about gender even here, because that's another topic, but it's specific to that group of people, or only they should
lifters, or
and it's not. But I think the good thing is, about there's more coaches like me and you, and there's many good coaches now, and you see this more in gyms as well. Even in my gym, there's a lot more females
I love seeing it,
and males that now deadlift and squat, which didn't do it in the past. So there is a shift, which is brilliant.
There's a movement, and particularly amongst women, there is a big movement that they're no longer just going into the women's only area with the 2 kilo pink dumbbells and doing some 100 reps of bicep curls, or just getting a band and doing 100 reps of glute bridges. I absolutely love seeing it, Jer. Could not agree more. And you mentioned there the third pillar, you briefly spoke about it, aerobic. So we've got our mobility, we're moving better, we've got our functional strength. What are some of your favorite forms of aerobic work, Jer?
So it depends on programming. And again, you need to, as a coach, I know my kind of clientele or my niche. So I know it's your average day person that want to look good and feel better. So we're not going to ask them to run 10Ks. We're not going to ask them to do ridiculous kind of quote unquote CrossFit workouts. That's not what they want to do. But they want to feel better and being able to do a certain activity for a long, sustainable period of time. So obviously we've got aerobic and anaerobic capacity, so we're not going to go into too much detail. So how I'd like to structure it, I think a client or me and you, we should have a dose of both. So an anaerobic sort of form, anaerobic form of workout that say is under 3 minutes. Okay, so that could be say 20 second sprints, or 60 seconds on the bike, on, 60 seconds off. So that's your kind of anaerobic side of things. But then we should also stimulate and expose these guys to and girls to more than three
work. Yeah,
aerobic,
yeah.
more than 3 minutes. So can they sustain a rower for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes? And I'm not one to advocate 20, 30, 40 minutes on the bike, because again, people don't have time. So what I'd like to do normally at the end of my kind of Boshoff method program workouts is maybe a 4-minute AMRAP or a 6-minute EMOM. And they work for 4 or 5 minutes with 3 exercises as hard as they can. Low skill, really low skill. So we talk body weight stuff, no complex movements. Could be body weight squat, push-up, lunges, burpees, anything really. Low skill that doesn't need coaching. Anyone can do the step-ups. So do that for 6 minutes to 10 minutes. I wouldn't make it more than that. And then you've got your anaerobic, which is your more short, intense. So if you can dose clients and give them both of those, I think you're on the right track. Because the biggest problem with clients is, or people, they can't pace themselves. So you say to someone, I want you to do for 10 minutes, we're going to do a bike, we're going to do squat, and we're going to do some ball slams. Okay. They go for 2 minutes. So you tell them, listen, I want you to go at 60% pace because you need to do this for 10 minutes.
Sure.
Then they get to 4 minutes and they gas out. So that's the other thing. We need to learn and coach these guys to be able to, so they can pace themselves for a period.
100%.
And that's a skill, and that comes over time.
Yeah, and like not only that's going to then benefit the second pillar, which is your strength, because even what I noticed as my aerobic fitness improved and increased, my rest periods, the time that I needed to rest in between my bigger compound lifts, my squat, my deadlift, and so on, that reduced because my recovery was better. So like one does tie into the other there if you can incorporate that. And even as you said, Jer, if you don't have 40, 45 minutes, you can just kind of do, as you said, like a circuit training, every minute on the minute for 6 to 10 minutes, something like that towards the end of your workout to get that heart rate up. And not to mention like just the cardiovascular, the longevity benefits of actually incorporating that. Jer, then finally, and arguably the most important pillar of all, is sustainable nutrition.
Yeah, so you'll probably be the man to talk about this. You probably have got more knowledge than me, but that's key. That should probably be the first pillar, I believe, but it doesn't matter which order you put it. So for me, the way we do it is just simplified protocols. So really simplify things down to the real basics. And there's so many coaches with so much knowledge, tons more knowledge than me, but I think we overcomplicate everything in the fitness world in terms of nutrition. Ultimately, people want to lose a bit of weight or body fat, and they want to be a bit leaner. So just simplify it. So the way we go on, the way we coach this, or I coach this, is obviously the old word calorie deficit. So we need to get clients to understand how a calorie deficit works, and then give them the tools to how they can monitor this, whether they track this or whether they go on portion control. So that's the 2 methods I use. So they can either track their food, or we just educate them on portion control. Gotcha. And because of the flexible diet approach, the relationship for me as a coach, their relationship with food is like very, very important. Okay? So because of that relationship, if there's not a good relationship, we're not going to go into eating disorders, etc. Just if there's no good relationship there, then we're going to really struggle getting results here. So simplify it and don't introduce too much too soon. So calorie deficit, and then there's many coaches that jump into macros, protein, fat, carbs straight away, and you have to stick this. And I'm a firm believer in, because I don't even track all my food. I have in the past, and I do at times when I need to, but I want to give the client autonomy. So in 3-4 months time, that she doesn't need to track, or he doesn't need to track. When they go on holiday, they don't need to. So we're encouraging that kind of freedom for them to understand this is what a portion of whatever food contains protein wise and calorie wise, and you need to have 2 or 3 meals a day to meet your daily target of whatever the amount is. And if you stick within that and you do your functional fitness on the side, you will get results. And then obviously consistency is should be a pillar, but that's just a massive fundamental part. But that's where coaches come in, and that's where we need to support them. So
Yeah.
it simple. Keep it simple, and then I introduce small things like protein intake will always be my second pillar. So calorie deficit, and then I focus on,
Calories, protein. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I very rarely go past that. Fat. I've had people before say to me, "How much fat should I have?" I said, "Don't worry about fat. Just stick to your protein. Give them the allowance or give them the recommendations, and then crack on."
Yeah. Yeah. Something similar myself. Jer, I like the way you mentioned flexible diet in there. And I guess there's a bit of a misconception too with flexible dieting. Like I'm glad as well, like speaking of movement with the women lifting more weights, I feel like the IIFIM, the if it fits your macros movement is kind of slowly dying down, thankfully,
Yeah,
because people were of the opinion that, okay, I've got 2,000 calories, so therefore I can go to McDonald's, get a large fries, double cheeseburger, a Coke and a McFlurry, and I'll just eat a chicken breast and that's me done for the day. Like, sure, technically you're within your calories there, but the makeup of those calories actually matters too. So I'm something similar. Okay, first of all, let's look at our total caloric intake, calorie deficit if we want to get a bit leaner. Obviously, we got to prioritize protein, but then just for me, it's like eat like a freaking adult. Like type of food actually matters. And
yeah,
you know what? Like if we can get 80% of those calories from real helpful whole foods, that gives you 20% more flexibility. So
100%.
you're someone eating 2,000 calories a day. 80% of 2,000 calories will be 1,600 calories. Let's nail those 1,600 calories and just get real food. Real good source of lean meat. Let's get our veggies. Let's get our oats or potatoes or rice, blah, blah.
Yes, yes,
Just all those good foods. And then the other 400 calories. You want a square chocolate. You want something sweet after your workout. You want to stop into the station and get a protein bar or a protein drink. Go ahead. And that way, then it's like, okay, there's no foods out of bounds, but that doesn't mean boundaries don't exist. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm all with you on that. Like I'm just anti meal plan, and I'm not saying meal plans aren't good. I mean, for when you were maybe playing with Italy there back in the rugby days, Jerry, there may have been a case that you needed a meal plan because you were training so much. But
yeah.
for like just your everyday general pop
No,
client, it's just more so, as you said, educate them on the how and they can choose their own methods.
I agree because meal plans was a big thing even when we started. It was a big thing and it died off really quickly. And I'm glad that, and it's just not sustainable. You're not going to go on holiday and say, "Oh, let me just get Adrian and Gerard's meal plan out." You're not going to do it. So, and we as coaches, that's the big thing. People sell meal plans now, and they say it's personalized to your thing. It's all generic, okay, and it's just a money making scheme online with online coaches, and it really frustrates me. And people fall for it. Oh, it's personalized and it's a meal plan. It's going to do magic. It's not. It's not going to do magic. So I've got the same approach as you. Don't be a dick about your food, okay? Don't be in denial either. Have good quality 3 meals a day, and then if you want to go off piece and have that 20% off a snack or a biscuit, then
Yeah.
feel free. And there's no guilt. That's the other thing. We shouldn't have guilt when it comes to food. So I'm on exactly same on. I'm on board with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unsustainable methods, Jared, they yield to
Yeah, yeah.
unsustainable results. So yeah, there we go, Jared. We covered a lot here. We covered the four pillars, so mobility, functional strength. We went on to aerobic work and of course simplified nutrition. Before we wrap it up, Jared, let's just brush off a quick few
Oh,
rapid
God.
fire Q&A questions, Jared. Starting out with the
Okay.
first one. What
Right.
is one new habit, Jared, that you've implemented the last 6 months?
One habit, my evening routine before I go to bed, non-negotiable. Me and my wife, 30 minutes from 9:30 till 10 before we go to bed. We do some stretching and mobility whilst talking. Maybe watch a bit of Netflix, but non-negotiable. Foam roll, stretch before we go to bed.
Brilliant. Best book you've read this year?
Oh, um, I've read a few, but the best one is I think I wrote it down. Better than before is by Gretchen Rubin. Gretchen Rubin. It's just about the four tendencies. The reason I read this is I wanted to understand my clients better and which of the four tendencies they are. And I read the book. It's well recommended and it's good in terms of relationships as well. So I know what tendency my wife is and how to deal with those sort of people. And funny, when I read the book, I kind of scored all my clients and I got about 80% of them right. But it's really fascinating because once you understand the tendencies, how they think and how they do things, it's
Oh,
easier to coach them.
interesting. Yeah,
So yeah, it's a
I
good book.
must
So Better
Must
Than
check that
Before.
one out. Better than before.
Yeah, by Gretchen Rubin. So
Brilliant. What's your favorite movie, Jer?
I'm honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a movie person. I don't like watching movies. I don't even go to cinema. I know that's a bit weird.
Yeah, you're the same as me, man.
I do. I know this is a real. I do love a bit of Bad Boys 2. I know this is cringe, but Bad Boys 2, I like just comedy, funny. I like Will Smith and the guys in there, but I'm not a big movie fan. I'm not, no.
Yeah, gotcha. What do you feel then, Jerry? I think you like this one. What do you feel is the most underrated gym exercise that mm, most people should do more of?
Most underrated gym exercise. A specific exercise you're referring to.
Yeah, like what's one exercise that you feel in the gym gives people so much bang for their buck, but yet you see very few people actually doing it.
So in terms of this is one of my core fundamental movements is a hollow hold. Okay, a hollow hold. If those that listen can't obviously see me demonstrating this, this is when you're on your back and only
Oh, brilliant. Yeah,
your
they're tough.
when your lower back only that 4 or 5 inches are touching the ground, pointing your toes and your hands are over your head. So you're like
Yes.
in a breakfast bowl kind of dish shape.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what this allows us to do, not just pull-ups, but it engages our core and it teaches us to get the rib cage down to the pelvis, so we can close that space. Because
Yeah.
most people cannot hold that. So a reverse of a plank. It's a reverse of a plank, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most
Oh
people
man,
can't
they're
hold that.
they're awesome.
And then
Yeah.
once you get that, you can go into hollow rock, so where you rock on the floor. So that for
Sure,
me,
I haven't done those in years. I'm gonna do them tomorrow in at the end of my workout. They're
I'll
brilliant, actually.
I'll tag you tomorrow in it, and I'll challenge you to it. And everyone listen, everyone listening as well, we'll get them to
Absolutely. No, they're awesome, actually. No one's ever said that answer before. Jer,
do
this has been amazing now. I feel like we covered a lot here, but just for our listeners now, what are 1 to 3 takeaways you'd like them to implement after listening to you speak?
I'd definitely say make mobility part of your daily routine, whether that's on its own in the evening, because we all have time. If you can't do it in the morning, get some mobility done, 4 to 5 minutes. If you can't do it on its own, do it part of your workout. Um, Secondly, is find a coach. If you really struggle or you're new, find a coach, online coach or in-person coach, or get an online program, because so many people want to get results, but they don't have direction.
Yeah,
And you don't have to stick with a coach forever. Get the basics nailed. It doesn't take long. It's how much you put in is going, how much you're going to get out. So get a coach, get some directions and structure and systems in place, and then walk away and do it on your own. So definitely guidance, number two. And number three, I don't know, just mindset. Anything's possible. Whatever your goal is, whether it's weight loss, whether it's running a 5K, we're all human beings. And the only thing that keeps most, and this is one thing I talk to my clients a lot, is our limiting beliefs. So just believe in yourself a bit more in terms of whatever you want to achieve. Because say that's lost 5 stone and you haven't lost 5 stone again, there's no difference. The only difference is she's done it and she's taken steps to do it. So what's holding you back and why wait till next year? Start now. There's some great coaches out there and people that can advise. So start now, and don't doubt yourself. Stop that limiting belief and do things. That's the three things really. I'd say.
wow. Yeah, absolutely. Love that third takeaway, those limiting beliefs. And we all have them to some degree. It's all good and well for him or for her, but I'm different
Yes,
because
yes,
insert limiting belief there. I fell victim to it before, Jer. I can definitely resonate that. But on the other side of those limiting beliefs is the person you want to become. So as you said,
exactly.
there's never a perfect time. Feel the fear, do it anyways. Take action now off this
Mm.
podcast. The definition of mental masturbation is listening to this and not doing anything at all.
There you
So
go.
whether that's
Love it.
freaking a bit of mobility in the morning, deciding you're going to bump up your aerobic work, you're
Mm.
going to focus on more specific movements for your goals, or you might reach out to a coach, whatever it might be, take some form of action.
Yeah.
Jared, this is amazing. Thank you so much for hopping on. Final two questions before we go, Jared. Firstly, I'm big into routines, and you mentioned you have an evening routine. I'm curious, Jerry, what does your morning routine look like, the first 30 to 60 minutes of your day?
So I actually did a big post on this a while ago and I got a big reaction. So I follow It was the 90-90 rule. Now it's like 60-60 rule. I've kind of watered it down. 60-60 rule for me means 60 minutes before after I get up and before I go to bed. I'm not allowed on social media. So that for me is a massive thing. So when I get up in the morning, I get up at 4:45 every morning. So I'm not allowed to go on my phone for 60 to 90 minutes. Don't turn it up. It's on, obviously. So I've got no phone in my bedroom, no digital devices. We don't have a TV in our room either. So no mobile phone. 1 liter of water when I get up before I have my meal. And then I do literally a 3-minute stretch. And I've got like my 3 favorite stretches in the kitchen. And then on the way to work or whenever I go, is always a podcast first thing in the morning. 20 to 30 minutes. And I can't start my day without that, really.
Yeah, something similar myself, Jared. That's awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Your final question, because this is the Lifestyle Lifters show, what is your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Successful. Oh, it's a broad question. Successful lifestyle. Like success can be defined in various ways. A lot of people obviously says money, job, career, fitness, how you look. For me, successful is I believe happiness. We've discussed this before the show, where I want to go and stuff, is happiness and freedom. So freedom for me is that gives me successful and the ability to do things on your terms, not on someone else's terms. It's a very broad question, but success for me is not money. It's not what I drive, my house. It's my health and my freedom. There's many more things, but those 2 things is fundamentally important to me. Freedom with being able to do whatever I want with my family, with my 4-year-old, being able to go on holiday when I want, not on someone else's
terms.
Yes. So
wow. Jared, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for hopping on. And Jared, you've shared a lot of knowledge here. So for any of our listeners now who'd like to learn a bit more about you and what you do, Jared, where is the best place that people can learn more about you?
They can go on my website, just the boshfit.com, so www.boshfit.com. We just launched that lately. We've been working on it for about a year or 2 now. And then obviously my Instagram handle, coach_Gerard, or just Coach Gerard. That's the 2 places I really hang out on, really. Obviously I'm on Facebook as well, but that's my main 2 places.
I'll post those links in the show notes, Jared. So
awesome.
For everyone listening, so it's coach_Gerard, and Gerard is spelled Gerhard.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll post those in the show notes.
Thanks.
And for all our listeners out there, please pay the fee. What is the fee? It's not monetary. It's just, if you got value, if you learned something from this, if you learned something from Jerry, please just share the show. Podcasts generally grow through word of mouth. We're not running ads toward this. So it's the good listeners like you listen to this show. Please pay it forward. Tag us on your IG stories. Share it with your friends. All of that stuff. All of the good stuff. We really would appreciate it. Jared, thanks so much again for hopping on. It's been an absolute pleasure, my man. I appreciate you and your time.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We'll do this again. And good luck to everything. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jared.